Select one. There's a reason you clicked on this message, and it's going to blow your mind. What you're feeling right now isn't gossip, it's alignment. The first waves of divine vengeance are already being felt by your adversaries. Those who believed they could disregard warnings, ignore signs, and walk unscathed through destiny were completely mistaken. They were instructed to retreat and leave the chosen one alone. They didn't, and now they're paying for it in ways even they find shocking. This is your affirmation. You are watching divine justice unfold in real time as a spiritual battle, long hidden, comes to a head. Long before you even knew you'd been selected, your journey had already begun. While others were distracted by shallow lives, you sensed something deeper stirring, patterns others ignored, unseen forces moving behind ordinary events. That awakening was no coincidence. It was preparation. Elon Musk embodies this same pattern. He has always stood at the intersection of chaos and vision. Tesla breaking the oil stronghold, SpaceX charting a path off a dying planet, Starlink connecting the disconnected. Even his wedding plans aren't just a personal milestone. They're a signpost in a much larger story of alignment and destiny. Divine preparation doesn't just give a mission and leave. It sharpens vision, exposes the battlefield, and marks its warriors. And now, as you watch these events unfold, you're not just reading about someone else's future, you're glimpsing your own. The chosen ones aren't a myth. They're rising. You've been awakened for a reason. Before the game begins, all of the participants are exposed. Every odd thought you've ever had about certain individuals. Every unexplained feeling of danger around certain people. Your instincts alerted you that someone was planning to harm you. That was the flood of heavenly wisdom into your mind. While God was arousing your spiritual senses, divine documentation was documenting every action taken by your adversaries. Every covert gathering where opposition members discussed ways to defeat you. Every private discussion where plans for attacks against you were coordinated, and every cunning plan devised to thwart your advancement. God took note of everything, documented everything, and started collecting evidence against anybody who dared to resist his chosen one. Your adversaries believed their activities were clandestine. Plans seemed to be concealed from heavenly view. The fact that every imagined conspiracy was being admitted as evidence in a cosmic tribunal, with God himself acting as judge, jury, and executioner, was unknown. The gears of divine justice grind very finely, yet they turn slowly. The assaults on you weren't arbitrary. They were planned with precision, planning, and coordination to strike you at your weakest moments. Your adversaries researched you as if you were a scientific experiment. Your areas of vulnerability were identified. Pressure spots are located, and their attack is carefully planned to do the most harm possible. The first thing targeted were relationships. Whispered poison in your trusted people's ears. Doubts regarding your character were sown. Lies were methodically disseminated by encasing them in just enough truth to make them seem plausible. Every relationship breakdown was hailed as a triumph in their effort to harm you. Opportunities were then targeted. Should have unlocked doors remained locked. Relationships that ought to have developed never did. You should have received resources, but they were inexplicably sent to another location. Positions, networks, and influence built barriers around your future. Your mission seemed to be contained behind an unbreakable fortress. Before taking action, God was allowing resistance to expose the entire scope of disobedience. With every plan developed, permission is given to dig graves deeper. Silence from God was seen as blessing. It was believed that divine patience was a sign of weakness. The distinction between divine surrender and divine constraint was going to be made abundantly evident. Something changed recently in the spiritual world. The limit of God's patience was reached. Subtle adjustment was out of the question. The time for mild rerouting was past. The time had come for a clear warning. Your adversaries started having nightmares that rocked them to their foundations. Not nebulous symbolic visions that might be written off as stress or poor food. They were out of breath in the middle of the night due to unquestionable, clear conversations. Dreams in which they see themselves slipping into the same trap that has been created for you. Type Amen to embrace the angel's blessings. Show your support by giving super thanks up to $20. Visions in which they were destroyed by their own machinations. Some attempted to ignore these nighttime alerts, persuading themselves that they were just the result of subconscious stress processing. However, the frequency, vividness, and terror of nightmares increased. Soon, the anticipation of what lay beyond the world of dreams made sleep terrifying. Others started to see coincidences that were too clear to ignore. Everywhere they went, there were numbers that indicated biblical cautions. Strangers coming with messages that no one could have predicted. Radio stations played tunes with lyrics that directly addressed their predicament. The pages of books that fall open reveal clear warnings about the repercussions of opposing God's chosen people. Friends, relatives, and even business partners were forced to convey sentiments that they didn't fully comprehend. Whatever you're intending to do to that individual must end. If you don't back down, something horrible will happen. God is not pleased with your actions. These were no informal discussions. These were divine interventions in which the throne chamber of heaven gave clear instructions via human messengers. God was giving your adversaries every chance to turn around before letting them face the consequences of their deeds. However, pride is a spiritual poison that prevents individuals from seeing the divine. Rather of paying attention to cautions, your adversaries intensify their revolt. It was believed that divine kindness was a sign of weakness. They mistakenly believed that divine patience equated to helplessness, believing that if God was really watching, something would have been done by now. To plan escalating assaults against you, emergency meetings were called. Resources were gathered for a last-ditch effort to permanently damage your reputation. Coordination evolved to withstand simultaneous assaults from many angles, thinking that they could outweigh whatever divine defenses you might have. The line was crossed at that point, and there was no turning back. God changed from warning mode to judgment mode at that point. At that point, divine justice took precedence over heavenly kindness. Fate was sealed when the cosmic gavel dropped. Promote this video to assist more selected people become aware of this if these words made you think. The events that followed were severe and quick. Supernaturally fast, well-thought-out plans started to fall apart. The same connections that were poisoned against you become poisonous in the lives of your enemies. Opportunities were slammed shut and doors closed for you. Type Amen to embrace the angel's blessings. Show your support by giving super thanks up to $20. Redirected resources dried up in their streams away from you. Taken for granted, financial security started to disappear like morning mist. Strong business alliances began to fall apart over what seemed to be trivial disputes. Suddenly, for no apparent reason, investment portfolios that had been growing steadily fell precipitously. Unexpectedly, sources of income that had been steady for years stopped coming in. Relationships between people started to fall apart with amazing force. Marriages that seemed solid began to fall apart due to suspicion and allegations. Decades-long friendships ended abruptly due to minor miscommunications. Relationships within the family that had previously offered emotional support have now become causes of contention and turmoil. Never-before-seen health conditions suddenly become serious ones. Consistently high energy levels gave way to persistent weariness. Brain fog replaced the power of mental clarity. They were unable to get in. Physical complaints that had no known medical cause started to interfere with day-to-day activities. This deterioration was not gradual. This was a methodical devastation occurring at an unnatural rate. This is when you really saw the manifestation of heavenly protection. Prospering despite assaults, not merely surviving them. Not just surviving conflict, but also coming out stronger than when it began. In addition to holding their position, they advanced to higher ground while their adversaries descended to lower levels. With compound interest, everything your adversaries attempted to do to you was now occurring to them. Spreading false information about your character was being shown to be untrue, which damaged their reputation. With finality they couldn't undo, doors slammed for you. Slamming shut their chances. Relationships that were poisoned against you were becoming more and more poisonous in their life. People were now doubting everything else they had ever stated after believing their falsehoods about you. Years of trust were being destroyed in a matter of days as everyone could see the patterns of deception. Their economic roots were being destroyed by financial assaults that were planned against you. They lost money on investments they had been confident about. Counted on business arrangements abruptly fell through. Suddenly, revenue sources that were thought to be assured ceased to exist. This was not the gradual application of karma by the law of nature. Type Amen to embrace the angel's blessings. Show your support by giving super thanks up to $20. There was no question about the source of this heavenly justice, which was acting with extraordinary accuracy and speed. The same energy that had been released into the cosmos was coming back, concentrated, accelerated, and multiplied into unavoidable perfect storms of repercussions. What you're seeing right now isn't simply your adversaries suffering personal setbacks. Each judgment sets off the one before it, resulting in an unstoppable avalanche of divine vengeance. Isolated events aren't the only things God deals with when He chooses to take action against people who have disregarded warnings. The whole rebellion network that was established to oppose you is revealed. See how well-planned coalitions are falling apart. Individuals that were enlisted to oppose you are now betraying one another. The very togetherness created in defiance of your fate is turning into a cause of desertion, betrayal, loneliness, and mutual annihilation. You are experiencing exactly what was intended to be generated in your life. Even they are shocked by the revelation of secret conversations. Supposedly secure private communications are appearing at the most inconvenient times. Secret discussions that were thought to be lost are coming to light to damage people's reputations. The darkness is being pulled into the light so that everyone may see the actual nature of things. It's likely that you've seen how justifications for actions are always evolving. First, they denied any wrongdoing, then they minimized their conduct, and now they try to defend their decisions by portraying themselves as victims. However, truth has an unstoppable way of coming to light. Additionally, the weight of the facts is destroying efforts to change history. You're going through a spiritual transformation so deep that it's altering everything around you, while their world falls apart. People who previously didn't perceive your value are now beginning to do so. Supernatural timing is bringing opportunities that appeared unattainable to reality. Previously obstructed resources are now freely flowing in the direction of your goal. Your spiritual discernment has become more acute than you ever imagined. Now, you can tell whether someone is sincere when you first meet them. Before someone talks, the spiritual environment in a room is palpable. Even you are amazed at how accurately you can spot deceit. Your divine enhancement for surviving combat is this improved perception. Your greatest strength for managing destiny is the same spiritual sensitivity that left you open to assaults. You have a profound understanding of spiritual dynamics that greatly benefits you in every circumstance. You are able to discern hidden objectives, read between the lines of a discussion, and adjust your posture appropriately. The repercussions your adversaries encounter extend beyond their own life. Downfall is having an impact on everyone who is related to them. Unsuspected financial problems are being found by business partners. Family members are discovering lies, which completely undermines confidence. Friends are coming to the realization that they never really know those they believe to be reliable. After years of development, professional networks are collapsing as genuine character emerges. When behind-the-scenes activity is revealed, reputations built over decades are dissolving. As more individuals become aware of control tendencies, influence gained via manipulation is diminishing. The intriguing thing about divine justice, however, is this. It's not arbitrary devastation. Each punishment is specifically designed to target the ways in which they attempted to hurt you. Their credibility is being methodically undermined because yours was assailed. An effort was made to socially isolate you. Thus, people are experiencing loneliness like never before. Your money flow was stopped. Thus, theirs is being diverted. The way that penalties reflect offenses committed against you is an example of perfect symmetry. This is not a random act of karma or happenstance. This is an example of divine intelligence creating consequences that serve as both a kind of justice and a teaching tool for those who see. During this process, your spiritual authority has experienced something extraordinary. Your link to divine power has been enhanced by the same assaults that were intended to undermine you. Under pressure, the truth about your character has disproved every falsehood that has been spoken about you. Every charge has been refuted by your handling of hardship, because they saw how you handled spiritual conflict with dignity and honesty. People are now seeking your advice and counsel. They saw you upholding your morals when others might have given in. When others would have sought retribution, they saw you show compassion. When others might have given up, they saw you maintaining your faith. Your testimony is now a potent weapon against the wicked empire. People pay attention when you talk about God's faithfulness because they have seen it in your life. They saw you overcome insurmountable difficulties, so when you mention supernatural protection, it has weight. They can relate to your declaration of God's justice because they are seeing it firsthand. This authority is not something that was created or coerced into being. It was developed by reactions to real assaults and forged in the furnace of real spiritual combat. Genuine spiritual power is easily recognized by others, and what you now possess cannot be imitated or replicated. The discovery of the true extent of the enemy's network has been one of the most startling elements of their defeat. It came out that people you trusted were providing information to your opponents. Behind closed doors, people were plotting against you while grinning in your face. Relationships you believed to be sincere were really surveillance operations meant to track developments and identify weaknesses. But when the moment is perfect, God has a way of revealing covert relationships. You can now plainly identify who is really on your side and who is just acting that way. Authenticity has been shown by those who stayed faithful in the most trying times. People who left you when things became tough have shown their real colors. Even though it hurt at first, this realization has actually cleansed your inner circle. People whose allegiance has been tried and tested are now all around you. Sincere connections with strong foundations remain after fair weather buddies have been weeded away. Although it is smaller, your support network is much more powerful. Once very painful betrayals now make perfect sense. You can see how God gave certain folks the opportunity to show themselves before you trusted them with more important things. In actuality, their timing in exposing their real selves was divine protection, averting later, more severe wounds. In order to overwhelm you, your adversaries attempted to create a compound effect of devastation in which each strike built on the one before it. God, however, has turned that process around and produced a compound effect of favor in its place. Every blessing builds on the one before it, accelerating the unstoppable flow of heavenly kindness. Your sense of vindication goes beyond simple self-gratification. It is a wonderful illustration of how God handles those who come into contact with His anointed ones. People are observing your life and making inferences about the existence of heavenly protection. Their faith is being strengthened by your success. You no longer need to seek opportunities. They're suddenly coming to you. Proposals and opportunities that perfectly fit your vocation and gifts are coming your way. People that sense a supernatural compulsion to invest in your achievement are offering resources. This isn't a case of good fortune or serendipitous events. This is the result of heavenly orchestration, producing a blessed symphony that precisely aligns with your destiny. God is making sure that everyone who saw you fight will see you win, so your testimony will be indisputable. You're not the same person you were before this spiritual conflict started. What you've gone through and conquered has changed you profoundly. Your identity has been made clearer by attacks intended to destroy it. Instead of breaking you, pressure has made you stronger than you could have ever dreamed. In ways you have never understood before, you suddenly recognize your value. You learn that people's views couldn't take away from your actual worth when they attempted to degrade you. You discovered unwavering faith in who God says you are, even when efforts were made to redefine you in accordance with their falsehoods. You overcame obstacles you were unaware of when attempts were made to restrict your potential. Your newfound confidence isn't pride or conceit. It is the firmly held belief of a person who has been tried and validated. You've been through it yourself, so you know what you can withstand. You've conquered it, so you know what you can do. Everything you weren't was destroyed by the fire, so you know who you are. Everyone in your vicinity may see this change. When you are around, people can feel the difference. Your voice now has an authority that wasn't there before. Confusion cannot break the tranquility in your manner. Your spirit has a power that intimidation cannot take away. Now, when you look back, you can see how God's timing was brilliantly strategic throughout this whole process. In reality, every delay that annoyed you was a result of divine placement. In reality, every closed door that let you down was a sign of heavenly protection. In reality, every rejection that caused you pain was a heavenly reroute towards something greater. Your adversaries believed they were in charge of the chronology of your demise. Phases of assault were meticulously engineered to gradually wear you down. However, God was working on a whole other schedule, preparing you for a promotion they couldn't have predicted by employing their own assaults. The war season was beneficial to your growth in many ways. It exposed opponents who were concealed and needed to be seen. It bolstered spiritual muscles you were unaware you had. It strengthened your bond with God by fostering a reliance you had never known. It equipped you for responsibilities that call for the character you've now grown into. You now see that every traumatic event served as a prelude to the remarkable fate that was waiting for you. Your rejection served as a prelude to acceptance on a level you could never have imagined. The seclusion you experienced served as training for influence you never would have thought possible. Your life's events signify more than simply individual success. It's a change in spiritual dynamics that impacts everyone within your influence. Through you, the same heavenly power that battled for you is now influencing others going through comparable struggles. Your triumph has turned into a model for how God deals with those who disregard the limits placed on His chosen ones. Because they are seeing something that defies natural explanation, people are fascinated by your life. Someone who defeated adversaries by outnumbering, outgunning, and outmaneuvering them without using the same strategies. This has sparked interest in the nature of heavenly protection and the origin of your power. Discussions about spiritual realities that were before impossible are now becoming feasible because of your witness. Once dismissing such phenomena as superstition, people are now really questioning spiritual warfare, faith, and divine intervention. For people who are looking for the truth, your experience has turned into a bridge between the natural and supernatural worlds. Your vindication is having far-reaching consequences that go far beyond the current situation. Your triumph is giving hope and courage to those chosen ones who are being attacked similarly. You're starting to realize that if God battled for you, then God will fight for them too. By proxy, your breakthrough has become theirs. Perhaps the greatest gift you have got from this experience is the spiritual wisdom you have obtained. You now know how spiritual warfare works in ways that are not taught in seminars or in books. You've been educated in a way that can only be acquired via a true battle in the unseen world. Now, you can see spiritual attacks before they become fully manifested. You are aware of the ways in which resistance develops against those who are selected. You know what tactics your adversaries usually use and what countermeasures work best. You are now more dangerous than ever to the domain of evil because of this understanding. More significantly, however, you now know the difference between spiritual battle and human resistance. Not all disputes are demonic, and not all difficulties call for spiritual weapons. You can react correctly to many forms of opposition without spending energy on pointless confrontations because to the discernment you've learned. Your ability to survive and thrive in this spiritual battle has resulted in an exponential expansion of your orbit of influence. People who were previously uninterested in you are now interested in your viewpoint. People who used to ignore your voice are now paying close attention when you talk. Now, Supernatural intervention is amplifying the same presence that your adversaries attempted to quiet. Adversity-forged genuineness is what people are attracted to, you're finding. One may detect the distinction between experienced wisdom and theoretical understanding. Your religion has been tested, so when you talk about it, people listen. Because your persistence has been seen, people pay attention when you discuss tenacity. By divine design, the networks that your adversaries attempted to control or destroy are being recreated around you. However, since these new connections are founded on genuine relationships rather than flimsy associations, they are stronger. People are supporting you since they can identify the authentic item when they see it. What your adversaries go through is a warning that reverberates in both the visible and unseen worlds. Those who comprehend spiritual dynamics have come to regard downfall as legendary. It serves as a warning to anyone who may be tempted to follow their example about what occurred when God's warnings were disregarded. However, this heritage is used for more than just personal defense. It shows the world that while people are being attacked, God still steps in to help them. It demonstrates that divine justice is a current reality rather than only a thing of the past. It demonstrates that in disputes on earth, heaven still has the last say. Your tale is being told as part of a greater story concerning God's treatment of those who disregard set limits. What transpired in your case will be remembered by future generations as proof that divine justice is guaranteed for those who continue to fight against God's will, and that divine protection is genuine. Restoring what was destroyed or damaged during assaults is only one aspect of the repair you are now experiencing. Through this process, God is providing you with things you never had before, opening doors you never had before, and bringing you into contact with individuals you never would have met otherwise. The very challenges designed to weaken you have increased your ability to accept benefits. Surviving failure has increased your capacity to manage success. Experiencing heavenly protection in dire situations has enhanced your respect for divine favor. During times of conflict, dreams that appeared unattainable are increasingly becoming unavoidable reality. During assaults, visions that were dead are being brought back to life with more force than before. Interest is being added to the fulfillment of promises that seem to have been neglected during the conflict. You're coming to terms with the fact that what you believed you had lost was, in fact, being kept in escrow by heavenly hands until the right moment for restoration came. While character development was underway, nothing was really destroyed. It was just momentarily blocked from your access. Everything is being returned with upgrades attached now that the procedure is finished. It was never intended for you to travel this route by yourself. There is more to the Obsidian Inner Order than meets the eye. It is a haven for the awakened, the exiled, and those who have been abandoned for their truth and gaslight for their abilities. We get together live on Zoom once a week. Stories of change from real individuals with genuine faces. The psychic skills of a former CFO were accepted. A healer who overcame ritual torture and discovered their power. And a sea who liberated themselves from religious tyranny. We're joined by dozens of others who have been through precisely what you have. Your spiritual family is this group. I will never abandon you. I will never allow you to experience this revelation by yourself. I would never ignore your pain as if it were a sign of disdain. You are not punished by being banished from the normal world. For us and the family that chooses you back, it was a prelude to this. Join the Inner Order of Obsidians. In the description, there's a link. You were always destined to be the person you are now, thanks to this process. Attack removed phony personas and identities that were never accurate representations of who you were. The diamond that was always concealed beneath the coal of your potential was exposed under pressure. Instead of comparing yourself to others, you now see your value in absolute terms. Market circumstances and other people's perceptions don't define your worth. Your importance is independent on societal acceptance or outside validation. Divine purpose and the unchangeable truth about who you are in God's view are the foundations of your identity. Your anointing is now being acknowledged by the same individuals who once doubted your calling. Your goal is now being recognized by the same voices who earlier opposed your route. You're performing for the same people who formerly questioned your abilities. Your vindication is more than simply a sense of accomplishment. It's an open display of God's faithfulness. Now, everyone who saw your battle is seeing your triumph. You're being exalted by others who saw your assault. Those who saw your struggles are now observing you. Others who are going through comparable struggles gain faith as a result. You are drawing strength from your testimony and hope from your experience. Their motivation to keep fighting when everything appears lost has come from your win. They now use your breakthrough as evidence that it is feasible. Every other selected person who finds themselves under assault has access to the same divine justice that was effective in your case. The way God reacts when people disregard warnings about leaving anointed people alone is shown by your narrative. It sets the stage for such interventions in the future. However, your validation also acts as a warning to possible adversaries who may be thinking about launching similar assaults on other selected individuals. It is evident what happened to those who disregarded God's commands and opted for rebellion over repentance. Future resistance is discouraged by your success. Something exceptional is taking place with your spiritual endowments and natural abilities. The same abilities that were before disregarded or undervalued are now being emphasized to the point of incomprehensibility. Supernatural enhancement is reawakening skills that were latent during the attack season. Suppressed creativity is suddenly rushing out like an uncontrollable flood of invention. You're learning things about yourself that even you don't know you have. Once routine problem-solving skills are now functioning at genius levels. Subtle intuitive ideas have become blatantly obvious and unquestionably correct. Adequate communication abilities have evolved into powerful and captivating strategies to engage listeners. People are beginning to look for you because of your special skills and viewpoint. Previously unattainable projects are now being made available to you. Others who understand your improved skills are now starting collaborations that before would not have been conceivable. Everything that was slowed down during the war season is now happening at an unprecedented rate. Years of planning are coming to fruition in a fraction of the time anticipated. Through divine orchestration, connections are being made that should have required substantial networking. Opportunities that often take a lot of planning are being presented to you already prepared. What occurs when God chooses to make up for lost time is what you're going through. The same heavenly force that halted your advancement throughout the character-building process is now giving you unstoppable impetus. What seemed to be obstacles turned out to be heavenly delays that made sure you were prepared for the current acceleration. Once blocked financial innovations are now coming from many sources at once. Once stalled career growth is now occurring in quantum leaps as opposed to slow increments. Withheld recognition is suddenly emerging from unexpected sources with a level of intensity that astounds you and everyone else. You may anticipate that new types of resistance will surface as your visibility and influence grow. Instead, however, something extraordinary is taking place. You're surrounded by a mystical barrier that blocks negativity before it can get to you. Criticism that used to hurt you now bounces off without injury. Before momentum can develop, attempts to replicate the previous assault patterns are failing. People who would have been enlisted to fight you are now lured to become your supporters. Now, lies that formerly acquired momentum are quickly revealed and disregarded. The same spiritual climate that formerly made assaults possible is now categorically opposing them. The spiritual principles that govern your actions have changed. Your life is no longer regulated by the same laws that applied during the wartime season. You have attained a degree of heavenly favor that makes it impossible for resistance to regain its previous footing. This is not a stopgap measure. Your spiritual operating system has been permanently upgraded. You are now incorporating all of the knowledge you gained from your fire trial into useful insight that directs your everyday choices. Adversity-honed discernment is enabling you to seize possibilities with extraordinary insight. You are now using the patience you gained from waiting to make wise decisions on your future. You're discovering that you inherently steer clear of situations that might have previously caught you off guard. Warning signs that you may have overlooked in the past are now abundantly clear. Your improved vision makes it impossible for those with ulterior motives to conceal their genuine intentions. Before problems emerge, situations that have the potential to become troublesome are identified and avoided. You're almost invincible because to the potent mix of heavenly insight and street smarts acquired via spiritual battle. You're acting with the wisdom of someone who has been through actual combat and the naivete of someone who has kept their heart intact. After being attacked for so long, your mission may finally be realized without hindrance. Suppressed gifts are now functioning at full potential. Now, the calling that had been impeded is progressing faster than was previously believed throughout the conflict season. You've changed since you started this spiritual conflict. You are refined gold that has been forged in the furnace of assaults. You've shown your sincerity in a pressure-filled exam. You found strength you didn't realize you had after being pushed outside your comfort zone. Everyone around you can no longer deny the flavor of your life. Even when they're unable to articulate it, people can still see, feel, and recognize it. Before you get there, doors open. Instead of you chasing opportunities, they come to you. Like rivers heading to the sea, resources come your way. You won without firing a shot, and the battle is done. God was battling for you while your adversaries were busy fighting against you. As they spent all of their firepower on pointless assaults, triumph was being planned and heavenly defense was being strengthened. Traps were being created for the eventual collapse while thinking was gaining momentum. You are now standing in a totally different environment. The obstacles that were previously in your way have been removed. Those who previously opposed your advancement have been neutralized or eliminated completely. Once limited resources are now freely available to help you achieve your goals. Recall the beginning of this. There's a reason you clicked on this message. It was not out of boredom or curiosity. Divine appointment was the cause. God understood that at this precise point in your path, you needed to hear this message. It was necessary to have confirmation that what you've been feeling is accurate. Your adversaries believed they could disregard God's warnings and avoid repercussions. False. Their fantasy was to attack divinely selected ones and escape unharmed. Their error included intentions beyond heavenly reach and machinations concealed from divine eyes. Almost everything is incorrect. However, you were correct. All of your spiritual intuitions that something was going on behind the scenes were right. Every indication that a shift was imminent was foretelling. Every sense that justice was intensifying was a result of heavenly inspiration. Opposition worked on the frequency of hell, while you were tuned into the frequency of paradise. You will continue to be guided toward your destiny by the same intuition that led you to this message. You will be able to manage the possibilities that are now opening up to you with the same spiritual awareness that let you survive assaults.